Hello and welcome to Neuroshambles, the podcast that aims to shine a light into some of the murkier corners of what it's like to parent neurodivergent kids. I'm Mark Allen, and every episode I'm going to be swapping stories with my guests about some of the frankly ludicrous nonsense we have to deal with on a daily basis. So, if you're anything like me and you're feeling frazzled, overwhelmed and pretty much an outcast from polite society, join me. Hello and welcome to episode 53 of Neuroshambles. I've got a particularly special one for you this week as Neuroshambles is proud to be taking part in Podcastathon, which is a week-long event that sees podcasters around the world dedicate an episode to a charity that means something to them. So I've got an inspirational guest lined up for you to discuss a topic of the week that I think is going to resonate with all of you Neuroshamblers out there. We'll also have the usual Neurodiversity champions, tiny epic wins and what the flip moments. So let us dally no longer and dive straight in.
Meet the guest.
Now, I am really excited to talk to this week's guest as she is one of the very first people I met on the long and bumpy road to understanding my children's neurotypes, which feels like a bloody lifetime ago now. Not only is she a devoted parent to a now fully grown neurodivergent son, but she is also the founder of mASCot, which is a parent-to-parent support network for families who have autistic children and young adults. It's based in Sussex, which is how I came into contact with them, and they are a non-profit community organisation run by volunteers. So as soon as I heard about the wonderful Podcastathon initiative, there was only one person I wanted to get on as a guest for this episode. I am absolutely delighted that she's agreed to come on and share her story with me. It's Sam Bayley. How you doing, Sam?
Oh, hello, and thank you for inviting me. A little bit nervous, but you're making me feel comfortable already, which is great.
There's nothing to feel nervous about. It's just a chat, right?
Yes, and I'm good at that.
Yeah, exactly. It's me that has to edit it, though. Let's not forget that. So when we start any episode of Neuroshambles, it's important for the listeners to understand a little bit more about your setup. So take me through the neurodivergencies at play in your household, Sam.
Well, to start with, historically, we only thought it was Bill, our son.
Okay, it's always the way.
Yes, and as the journey's gone on, I've recognised a lot in myself, more ADHD.
Okay.
So with the training I've done and everything, and being surrounded by the most wonderful families in mASCot, which is thousands of families, I've recognised so much of myself. So our son Bill was diagnosed at 3, just over 3, autistic. Which was back in 2000. He was born in 1997. So he was diagnosed autistic and then epileptic at 6. So sort of our whole world was sort of around Bill's needs, sort of early doors. He was non-verbal till he was about 6. So obviously communication, everything like that was quite hard. Paul's not got any official, but Bill constantly goes, I'm pretty sure Dad's more autistic than me. So we do that. And they definitely both suffer very, very strongly with demand avoidance, which I didn't know about probably up until about 10 years ago. When I did the PDA training, it was like, oh my God, that just answers so much in our household.
Yeah, isn't it amazing when those things kind of click into place? You're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. We're not just an argumentative bunch. We're just all we're all just demand avoidant.
Okay, well, thanks for introducing us to your setup, Sam. We've got lots to unpick in this particular episode, so let's crack on with it.
What's the topic of the week?
So this week's topic is one that I would say underpins the very foundations of what Neuroshambles is about. And I think, if I'm honest, is pretty much what inspired me to start doing this in the first place. And that is the importance of connecting with other people who actually understand what you're going through, mainly because they are in the very same leaky boat. I mean, as a parent of a neurodivergent child, I think it's fair to say that life can feel pretty lonely, particularly in the early days when it seems like you're the only one that is having to negotiate this bewildering experience. So finding other people who you can swap stories with and compare notes with and share strategies with is really important. And while I was in that phase of not having that, network, I was fortunate enough to find mASCot when I was taking my first tentative steps into the foggy world of parenting neurodivergent kids. But obviously, Sam, when you first learned about Bill's autism, when he was 3, mASCot wasn't there because you started it, right? So nothing out there existed. So how the hell did you find fellow parents in the same situation?
The only things that were available to me out there was what very few statutory connections we had. It was a little bit different when Bill was diagnosed because he went straight to the Jean Saunders Centre, which is a special needs preschool.
Mm-hmm.
So within that, I met fellow parents quite early on in my journey. And we had pre-sends attached to that. So I had a lady who used to come round actually once a week to guide me through how to do speech and language with Bill, because Bill was the first child in Sussex to use the PECS, the Picture Exchange Communication.
Oh, really?
So I did the training and did that with him. He was that they were just starting to branch out in Sussex then. So I was being guided with that, which was the most unbelievable foundation for me to build my strategies with Bill that have carried on to adulthood.
And you could just get such an early view into how accommodations are so important.
Totally. And through my journey as well, you see the difference of late diagnosed children versus the ones that get an early diagnosis of how all of the family are affected by being stranded when you don't know what it is with your child, you don't know what you're dealing with. And that's, so really Bill had quite a textbook beginning, which was, for me and Paul, we didn't realise we were lucky then, but I look back now and realise not everybody got that. We just happened to be seeing the right people at the same time.
Yeah, of course. So you'd connected through fellow parents at the same
at that time, but that was only for a short amount of time. And then the only thing that was offered to us statutory was what's now our BIS service, our inclusion service in Brighton and Hove.
I'm familiar with their work, obviously.
Yeah, but before they changed over, they were the ASE support service, and they would do talks for us probably once a month or once a term. But they were useful to a certain point, but it was more talking at us about things that we might not necessarily be experiencing. It was just, there wasn't enough space to open all those emotive subjects. We weren't really allowed to talk back. There was always, it's never enough time. Sorry, we need the room. So they'd then spill us out on back home again while we've been heightened up. So I just started taking the families down to Emmaus, to the local coffee shop, and saying we need to carry this conversation
like on. A breakout group.
It was.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And because I sort of led them all there, because I used to go there quite a lot because it's a nice community place, we ended up that people, the next talk would say, can we go again afterwards?
So you're really early days, you're learning of the benefits of just sharing experiences and talking, not being talked at, but talking with people who are going through similar things.
Yeah. And then when Bill started having seizures and he got his epilepsy diagnosis, it's completely sideswiped to me. When he got his autism diagnosis, I was a bit like, right, I've got to learn about this. I can sort this. I can manage it. We'll just learn to adapt for him. But when it's a medical need, it's out of your hands. So that actually was a lot more scary for me than
of course.
When he got his autism diagnosis. So I found an online group called POKWE, which was Parents of Kids with Epilepsy. And it was my go-to place when Bill was in bed, Paul was, chilled out. I'd go online and talk to other parents, and it was the most unbelievable support that I needed. And I just thought, I haven't got this for the autism side of everything. So with that meeting people, I'd already started a lot of the coffee mornings. And I also realised that a lot of parents couldn't go to these workshops because they were working, or they had a child they couldn't leave, or any childcare to access. So I started taking notes at all the meetings and emailing it to people who couldn't go. So then I thought, what a great place if we have an online forum where we can actually all just talk in real time and chat. And so that was the birth of mASCot.
But it's just being a beacon of light for people to gravitate towards, like confused moths.
Yeah, totally.
just going,
Banging away as usual.
Is anyone else going through this shit? Yeah. Oh, thank God. I thought it was just me.
Yeah.
And yes, whether that's, the epilepsy forums or with the, the autism side of things, just being able to share experiences with other people became really important, and obviously inspired you to do the rest of the amazing stuff that you've done, which we'll get on to. I wanted to look at the early expectations when you are raising kids, right? Because we all have these ideals, I think. When we've got a baby on the way and we go, I pretty much know what the rest of this phase of my life is going to look like, right? And we have an idea of how that's going to look, because when they're babies, there is an assumption, and I think all Neuroshambles listeners can relate to this, that our kids are going to be neurotypical. To be honest, it wasn't even a consideration that they wouldn't be neurotypical, because that was not really discussed or talked about. It certainly wasn't a consideration of mine. And I didn't really have any awareness of neurodivergency until it knocked on our door. So when we, in the early years, we lump ourselves in with all the other local parents, right? It's like, hey, everyone's going out for a coffee, or we're going to go to soft play, or whatever it is. So much of the bonding that happens with friendship groups, I think, in those days, is based on swapping notes and comparing experiences with other parents. I think is an important ritual, because all parents, regardless of the neurotype of their child, are knackered. They're constantly exhausted and anxious and uncertain. So swapping notes and comparing milestones and whatever, all that other stuff you do with newborns and toddlers is really important, because you're trying to make sense of this new life that you've been catapulted into, of having to care for another tiny thing. And it becomes really important to connect with other parents. And typically that's done through, like, with baby groups or toddler groups or parents at nursery school. And once that starts to happen, I kind of assumed I knew what I was signing up for. It's like, what's going to happen is the kids are going to go to primary school. That is going to unlock a treasure trove of potential new friendships with other parents. Our kids are going to make friends with loads of other kids because they're really going to be popular. And the parents are going to organize play dates and sleepovers and day trips. And if we're lucky, we might even like some of the other parents enough to consider them actual friends. And we'll take it in turns to babysit, so that me and my partner can spend time together being romantic and keeping that side of our relationship alive. And we'll go around each other's houses, and the kids will make lifelong friends like we see in the movies, and we'll go on holiday together, and it's just going to be wonderful. It's not how it works out, is it? No. Pretty soon you start to realize this is not how my life looks.
Yeah. We got Bill, and it was brilliant. But it was like exactly what you said, Paul's into his motorbikes. He's always been with the cool bike a lot, and I'd have visits of Paul and Bill out the front doing the motorbikes, and all Bill's mates saying, Mrs. B, put the kettle on. And, this lovely biker group out the front and all these things. I didn't envisage that I'd have to talk for nearly 8 years about Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And the most brain-deading things, and
no, of course
all
not.
of that. My mum was a nanny, and my sister already had 2 children. I thought, I was going to be the best mum in the world. I know all these parenting hacks that I learned off, people around me.
But those parenting hacks are for neurotypical kids, right?
Yeah, exactly. But we only got to 2 before it started flagging up that there was things with Bill.
Okay.
I started to notice. So straight away, my brain started going, well, actually, all of my friends and family saying, try this or do this, or, oh, don't worry about him not talking. I knew a kid who didn't talk till they were 3. But it was more than just him not talking. It was more, but autism wasn't even on my radar. And then I just remember Paul getting a paper one day and it had one of the supplements in it. And I opened it, and the whole middle thing was this article about this woman who just had a child diagnosed at 3. And I was literally like, she's been in my house. She's watched. She said things like, I had like a lineup of little ducks that were on the bath. And I started noticing every time I went in there, they were all turned around facing the wall.
Okay.
And I'd go in and turn them all back again. And she had the same story and all of these things. And I thought, well, they're all things Bill does that we just think it's little quirky things that he does.
Yeah.
And then that was like straight away was my, there's more. This is starting to change the course of what was happening. And then the first port of call, I just booked for Bill to go and see a speech and language therapist.
Yeah.
And she was the most amazing person. She said Bill was only just over 2. She said they don't normally deal with any children until they're 2.5. She said, but there's something really going on with Bill here. She said, I don't want to leave it. So she arranged to see him, do a whole proper assessment on him, and got the top speech and language person who straight away said, he's autistic. And it was like, and then, obviously they had to go through the official diagnosis, but they could see it. So then it was like straight away I knew my parenting and all of my expectations were just going to have to go straight to one side.
Yes.
And I was going to have to take a step back and find my own way of parenting, not what my mum had done, what my sister had done, my friends had done.
Make up your own rules in the end, isn't it? And I think, no matter what age that is, there is a point where, as a parent, you start to notice that your child is different to most of the kids. So obviously you got it very early and you saw the signs really early, which has been incredibly beneficial to Bill over time. And Tam and I started to notice differences with Jay when he was younger, and you start to see that your experience does not align with everyone else's. And when you're at that little crucible of parenting where you're all swapping notes and comparing stories, and you start to notice that yours doesn't quite match up, that's quite a difficult period, I think. It certainly was for Tam and I, when we knew something was a bit different, but we didn't know what it was. So we're still trying to crowbar Jay into situations that all the other parents are doing with their neurotypical kids. Yeah. So we'd be going to birthday parties and school discos, or trying to get him to do hobbies and stuff, or days out and things that are supposed to be fun, right? They were on our itinerary of the things we were definitely going to achieve when we were, starting out as parents.
Yeah.
And this is the time we're supposed to be bonding with other parents, right? So we would go to these things, soft play is a good example, right? You go to soft play with your kids and the other parents are sitting and chatting. And I can't do that. It would never work out that way, because I spend most of my time managing Jay and having to almost police the way that he played with other kids when he'd be coming across as rude or unapologetically spiky, I think is probably. Yeah. And you start to sort of drift away from those friendships groups, I think, at that age. Did you notice yourself doing that? I mean, very early on.
I think because I've always been a bit some people say gobby, some people say bullshit. I don't know what the right terminology is, but I actually, and again, because I had that early information, if somebody made a comment or put their backs to us or judged Bill in any way or judged me in any way, I was very verbal to say, actually, he's behaving like that because he's autistic and he's really struggling at the moment. So I found that people couldn't walk away or turn their backs to me, because I'd be, excuse me, I need to tell you what's this.
Which is wonderful. Yeah. But you knew at that age.
Yeah, totally.
Like for so many of us in those years, we don't know. We can't definitively say that. We could, you have those whispered conversations. Tam and I would talk about it quite a lot at home. We'd do bits of research and we'd talk about what could be going on, but we didn't talk to other people about it because it was still unconfirmed. It was undiagnosed. And that becomes quite difficult. And what you end up doing, I think, what we ended up doing was almost withdrawing from other parents, because it's difficult. It's difficult to not share those same experiences and not, firstly, you can't go to the same social groups that they go to. You can't go to the pub when they're like, oh, should we go to the pub? We'll all get a babysitter and go to the pub. It's like, I can't get a babysitter, mate.
Yeah, exactly that.
So, I'll just stay at home. And then you end up being a little bit more isolated. And what happens almost by stealth, I think, is that what starts out as quite an optimistically large group of friends, when you're like, hey, I'm friends with everybody, it sort of gets smaller and smaller. It diminishes.
You're left with the hardcore friends who'll put up with anything.
Yeah, and they are. My friends now are fucking hardcore.
Totally.
But not always because they've made a conscious decision to do it, or because you've made a conscious decision, you just sort of fall away from each other, right? I mean, like, so I think we stopped being invited to play dates and birthday parties. Mainly because Jade wasn't really interested in making friends with other kids, and also because when he did go, he was, not the best guest. I think like he wasn't the worst, but I've seen worse at my own birthday parties. But it wasn't a conscious decision on the part of other parents. It wasn't like we were being deliberately ostracized or excommunicated for not fitting in.
Yeah. And I wonder how much of it is as well, which I know with me was I actually knew deep down how hard it was for Bill, and he didn't enjoy it. So how could I enjoy myself somewhere? So there's a lot of that, your parent protection coming in, of that it's not necessarily always that people are turning away from you. It's that you're pulling away from them.
That's
because
interesting, yeah.
You don't always want to be explaining anything. I didn't want to have to always, I'd be exhausted from it. But I learned a little lesson early doors. I don't think I'd do it now in what I know now. But when I remember taking Bill into town, and I realised afterwards he dropped his little train as we were going out the front door. He couldn't tell me, and he was just distraught. And we were on the bus, and people were frowning at us. People were tutting at us. Somebody asked us to get off the bus. They were too noisy. He was too noisy. It was just horrible. I had the most horrible experience there, and it happened it was happening quite a lot with different things. And we went on to Brighton Pier, and they had a baseball cap embroidery stall. And I had "I'm not naughty, I'm autistic" cap made for Bill. And the next time I went out to town, he put it on, and I got on the bus, and I couldn't believe the change in people.
Oh,
They were like,
really?
oh my God, it was unbelievable. They were like, oh, come sit over here, or oh, bless him, which was a little bit patronising. But
I'll
people
take the patronising over the judging.
Yeah, no, exactly. But they were saying, oh, my neighbour's son's autistic, or my auntie's boy's autistic, and suddenly it opened this dialogue.
Oh, interesting.
And that's when I realised then that was my start of saying, no, you won't turn your back on me, I'll educate you. Because actually, and most people which come across as rude or ignorant is actually that a fear of not really knowing how to deal with the situation.
And they also make massive assumptions about the way your child is behaving.
Yeah, totally.
Based on a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
So you are basically literally signposting it. Here's the knowledge you need. Back off. Which is wonderful. But again, you knew quite early on. And so you were able to advocate for that quite early on, whereas we didn't really know. And I didn't know that Jay wasn't enjoying those situations. So we'd take him to those, and then, he'd kick off, or he wouldn't enjoy it, or there would be some kind of flashpoint and we'd have to leave pretty quickly. But we didn't sort of piece that together. And again, over time, we'd sort of isolate a little bit more. And even when we're trying to have conversations, because you have playground conversations with other parents, right? And I noticed that I just wasn't getting time to talk to people because I was perpetually unavailable because I'm trying to chase Jay because he's there's some flats near their school, and he'd be looking through the window of the flats like, dude, that's someone's house, come back. No, other kids would dream of doing that.
Tom.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm having to go chase him down or something, and I'm stressed and I'm unable to be fully present. So even if you are having a chat with me, I'm shit company because I'm on edge permanently. I'm not really listening to what you're saying, much as I'm interested by what you got up to over your weekend. Right? I've got my eye on Jay over here, or Otto, who is incredibly anxious and needs constant interaction to feel safe and regulated. When I got two of them, it's like, dude, just give up on all society completely. And even the ones that I knew from when they were toddlers and before it was sort of so pronounced, I think, even them I found just sort of drifting away, particularly at school, because what would happen is that their kids would go into the classroom and they would find other kids, kids who wouldn't pull them off a climbing frame by their hair when they felt some level of injustice. They would find their own friendship groups. And then they would meet those parents. And so we're just gradually falling apart, being more and more isolated from society.
And it does come from other children as well. Bill never really liked the park. So we never made him do anything he didn't want to do. And one day on the way back from the shops, he said, "Can I go to play on the swings now?" We said, "Yeah, of course you can." So me and Paul were just sort of on the sidelines watching him. And I just remember just feeling so overwhelmed with happiness. He was just charging around with all these lads and he was just running around and they were up and down the slide, they were on the swings and everything. It was brilliant. And then all of a sudden, Bill just walked over and he came back. And I said, "What's the matter?" And he went, "I want to go home." I said, "Oh, what's the matter?" And he went, "They've just come up to me and said, 'Why are you so weird? Why do you talk weird?'" And I remember just thinking, he didn't look any different to me.
I know, but
He was just playing. And it was like they had this zone in. And if those children are then, because I was friends with some parents who actually came up and said, you know, George doesn't want Bill to come round anymore.
Yeah.
And it wasn't them turning their backs. They were doing what was best and what their child's wishes were. So there was, again, that trying to fit Bill into a mainstream school with a group of peers that weren't his genuine peers.
Yeah.
And it's difficult.
It's heartbreaking because I'm sure we've all had it. Yeah, playgrounds. God, you've just brought back some quite triggering memories of. Yeah, where people are just, because you want your kids to succeed socially. You really, go on, son, just be a bit more normal. But he's not, because he is being normal for him. He's being completely authentic.
Exactly that.
But it's like in the early days, you're just really willing him to succeed at society. And so when that kind of comes back, and then like weird, when they're called weird, which that Jay and Otto got in the early days, it's heartbreaking. So again, you find yourself just being on the outside, I guess. You're on the outside looking in, I think is the best way of putting that.
Totally.
I've been going through this for a couple of years, and I was in a bit of a low place, I think, because I needed interaction. I needed societal interaction. I didn't really have, because I thrive on talking to people. It's important to me, and I'm galvanized by it. Tam was less bothered by it because Tam is now a diagnosed autistic ADHD, so he's absolutely fine with just like one-on-one conversations. I want to be social, right? And I wasn't getting that, and I was in a bit of a low place, and there was a turning point for me, and it's a very clear turning point because it's written in my diary. I know the date of that turning point. And that was the 27th of October 2019. And that was an event at a hotel in Brighton called Coming Home to Autism. I don't know if you remember it.
I do.
That was the first time that I'd ever gone to an event on autism. It was still like, I wasn't sure. I wasn't convinced. Tam knew. Tam had been sort of feeding me very heavy hints and trying to have conversations. So I was like, yeah, let's just wait and see. Let's wait and see. And I think I was probably quite reluctant to go because I was still in that sort of grey area of like, he might be a bit different, but he might just be, he might grow out of it. I don't know. I knew nothing back in them days. So Tam put me up to it because they had been doing a lot more thinking than me and a lot more research than me. And I think knew that I was struggling to make sense of it all and knew that I needed to talk to other people about it. So sort of gently nudged me towards this event. And I remember just almost doing it to humor Tam. I'm going, all right, I'll go. All right, fine. And to be honest, when I approached that place, I felt like a bit of an imposter. I don't know if other neuroshamblers have experienced this, of just going, he's probably not autistic. I'm probably just being over dramatic, or, and I'm going to walk in there and go, yeah, no, this is not like my lot at all. So I'd sort of walked in there, probably not skeptical, but not as sold as I could have been. And I went in there and I sat down at the far corner of the room at a table. And that is where I met you for the first time, Sam. Now, I am almost certain you won't remember the encounter because you meet loads of people in my situation, online and in person. But for me, that moment was a game changer.
Oh, that's so lovely to hear. That's really good to hear.
Because I think, there was probably like 100, 200 people at the event, something like that. But you were there representing mASCot. You had a little stall there.
That's right.
Selling my
wares.
Come and join the gang. Yeah. So we had a chat about how I was doing, which no one really asked me. My conversations before then were just like, oh, what are your kids doing? Have they done this yet? Or are they into this? Are they into football? All of that stuff. You asked me how I was doing, and I was like, oh. and I had to think about it for a second. And you asked me why I was there, and I think I just sort of opened up, and you got it because you've been there, right? You've been on the same journey previously, so you could understand what I was going through, and you could empathize, and that was really important to me, to be seen, right? To be listened to, and you encouraged me to talk about it, and you didn't, because normally if I'd even strayed into that kind of territory, people would just sort of nod awkwardly, not know what to say, and then just shuffle away,
try and change the subject.
Yeah, exactly. Or worse is that he'll be fine. That they're saying, people, when you were talking to people about Bill, they try and put a gloss on it, don't they? They would try and gloss over it and just go, oh yeah, he's fine. He's just getting there in his own time, or what? You hear all this placatory language, which is just not helpful, because you're not validating what I'm trying to say. It's taken me a lot to be able to articulate this, particularly being a man.
And
being a male,
or in the first place with like you say, with just a load of strangers. But yeah, it took a lot to do that in the first place. So
yeah, so to have someone listen and understand it, and not be saying I was overthinking it, or I need to be more strict with him. That was the other one you get sometimes. That all of that shit, that was really important. Another really. And now I know your story about Bill and the hat. Bill and the baseball cap. This makes more sense. But one of the really unexpected takeaways from that event is the mascot card that you gave me. Because I think part of my conversation was he's just, people are judging me and him, and it's really difficult when he's having trouble in public. And you said, I've got some cards. And I was like, what, like business cards? And you got a mascot card out. And obviously no one at home knows what a mascot card is. Explain what the mascot card is for everyone, please, Sam.
Well, I won't take credit for the idea of it, because the National Autistic Society do them. But they're all this person. I've never seen one for children. Right. So I think that they were designed originally maybe for carers who are with non-verbal adult autistic people to communicate. So I wanted to design one. So we did a lot of talk on the forum of the wording that was right for all of our parents' views, and we tweaked it and worded it. So I've got one here. It says, "My child is on the autism spectrum. Please be understanding. My child is not a bad child, and I am not a bad parent. My child is having a meltdown or showing unusual behaviour because of their autism. Please be tolerant and understanding of my child's needs. Please support, don't judge us." And then it links to our website where they can find more information. And then on the back, it's just got how autism affects children in many different ways, but around how they might feel, you might feel they're ignoring you, or strange behaviour, flapping, that they might exhibit different, things that you're used to with other children. So it's a little bit of like, few categories where you'd want people to use it, where parents can use it, is that if somebody has been really judgmental and saying be stricter, give them a clip around the ear roll, which I've heard a lot of the old school people say. Give them that. It's like a go away, mind your own business, go and find out for yourself, sort of, get out of my space. If you're not going to help, go away. But like I said earlier with the hat, there's actually a lot of people who freeze. They don't know what to do. They want to help you, but they're not sure whether you can approach them or not. So by giving them that is also an opening for somebody to go, oh, I wondered whether they're autistic. Would you like me to help you? Or is there anything I can do? Mm-hmm. So you get a different reaction from people. So you have people who will always be helpful, but don't quite know how to approach you.
Yes.
And it's like a key. It's a
once
way
they
of opening
know that judgment just is, you're giving context to what they're witnessing, and you're sort of shining a light on. And
it's a gauge of what somebody's staring or frowning at you for, because they will respond to that card either and walk away, or like, oh, that's really interesting. It's a bit of a
either help out or piss off.
Yeah, one of the two, totally.
Yeah, but when you gave me a stack of them, because you obviously look like I needed them. You like to
Yeah.
take the lot.
Looks like somebody who's been in that
yeah,
situation
yeah.
in many a venue.
And it felt weirdly empowering just to have it in my pocket, just to be able to break it open in case of emergencies. Just have a tool that I could use in those situations that I didn't have to think. I didn't have to overthink. It's like, okay, I'm already dealing with this shit. You take a card. I'm going to, do this. And they would be more aware of what was going on. And I always envisaged in my head of using it whenever people were being awful and judgmental in public, just like skipping liberally through Asda, like scattering them like confetti. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Yeah.
That was the idea. Exactly. And I kind of envisaged it being like having a crucifix and holding it up to a vampire and watching them shrink back into the shadows.
Dissolving there and there in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. That was how I envisaged it. I've never had to use it.
Is that a good sign? That
It's
means
an
you're hanging around the
amazing
right
sign.
places.
I know, genuinely, it gave me a confidence. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's difficult for me to describe, but I've never, just knowing it was there was enough, I think. And that, sometimes if I do need to say anything to anyone, I would say, look, he's autistic and he's having a meltdown. Can you just give us some space? That was usually enough. But it was almost, for me, like I got a permission slip to advocate for my child.
Yeah, brilliantly. And I think the other thing with it as well is, and you've probably been in this situation so many times, whether you're at a social event or in a bit of a panic situation going on, somebody will come up and say, what does being autistic actually mean? And we've read reams and reams of stuff, but nobody's ever put it down onto a nice little contained card.
Yes.
Where you can suddenly go, yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. So for you as well, sometimes not many people really know how to explain it to the layman.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we've got so much information in our heads about it. So to concise it down into one.
Yeah. I've got some literal bullet points here. I'll give you the bullet point format, and there's a website you can look at if you want more information. So that conference, that encounter, was the start of my journey into advocating for my child, I think. And it came from talking to someone who's been there.
Yeah.
Because there were so many people that I talked to who haven't been there, and their advice, as you were saying, stuff that people would, the parenting advice you received when Bill was younger, it's meaningless. It doesn't apply to my child. My child is wired different, and that's fine. But when you have a conversation with people who do get it, that's really galvanizing and nourishing and important in helping you feel seen, I think.
Yeah. Wonderful.
There was one other game changer that happened that day. It was a big day that day for me.
It was a wonderful day.
There was one other game changer in the conversation with you, is that you mentioned a thing called Sunday Club, which I did not know about. And Sunday Club was a local thing, and it was a group run for parents and their neurodivergent kids. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And you sort of, there wasn't much detail around what it was. It's just I think it was sort of pitched that the parents just kind of get together and have a coffee and their kids could play and, just be around people in a similar boat. Right. And that sounded great to me. So I went back home from the conference and I was like, let's take the kids to Sunday Club right next week. So Tam was like, yeah, fine, we're up for it. And we went to Sunday Club the next week.
Wow.
And it's no exaggeration to say that probably changed the course of my life for multiple reasons, because I had no idea what to expect when I turned up. Like, I've been to, groups with kids before. My kids have never really fit in. So I turned up sort of expecting that maybe. And I walked in and it was absolute chaos. It was
yes,
absolute carnage. And I was like, oh, I'm home. No, but it was that. No, I'm doing it a massive disservice there.
It is chaos.
There was so much going on there. So in one room, there's a massive table full of arts and crafts, and there's a table that's got comics and Pokemon cards and plushies and bubbles and a whole fidget toy zone. And in the hall, which is massive, there were hundreds of balls and toys and a pool table and things to play with. There was a table tennis table, there was an outdoor space, there was even a sensory room in there. And amidst this mad scene were just loads of neurodivergent kids using the space in so many different ways, just exactly as they wanted to.
Yeah.
Not always as intended. They were just doing their own thing. So some were really quiet and focusing on something intensely. Maybe they got ear defenders on and they're, like sorting Pokemon cards or something like that. Others were just loud and boisterous, usually my lot, but throwing balls about or firing ping pong balls at each other. And some were just walking from room to room or spinning from room to room, stimming and fizzing, but just being who they needed to be. And I'm pretty sure that any neurotypical family that walked through that door would have probably taken one look at that scene, turn back straight around again and just run for the hills.
Totally.
like, let's never speak of that place again, Tom.
There was always one thing missing from the group, so
What was that?
no parents frowning at each other about each other's children.
It was amazing.
Isn't it? Just a non-judgmental environment is just wonderful.
That was the thing that I took away the most from that. It's that lack of judgment was it felt so liberating at the time. And it's crazy to think of how rare that was for me at the time, of being in a place without judgment.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that I realized how much that had affected me, or how, I'm always on edge, right? I'm always thinking, oh shit, where's Jay? Who's he? Yeah. He's like, I'm reading the body language of the person he's with or the child he's standing over, right? Or whatever's going on. I'm constantly on edge. And as soon as I was in that space, I didn't have to think about that. And like, if he's like really close to someone and talking in their face, they got kids the same. Do you know what I mean? I've got their kid in my face and no one cares because we get it.
So our first club years ago was when Bill was probably about 11, 12. And the first original, I think we only had about 80 members, 100 members then, versus 2,400 we've got now. So that's how much we've grown. But all of our children were really isolated. They weren't going out at all. They were just all on their DSs. That's how long ago it was. They were all on their old DS games. Yeah. So we managed to get a venue and we just said, let's just get our kids, even if they all sit in the corner, us parents can get together. But the kids were out of their bedrooms. And it was unbelievable how quick, literally within 25, 30 minutes, you notice that all the kids knew they were in a really safe zone and they were with their actual peer group. Okay. And the atmosphere was just unbelievable. And next minute, one would go and sit there and they were interested in what game they were playing. So that was our first club. Mimi came along to that one and then ended up becoming part of our mASCot team. And she was the one who pushed more of let's get our youth projects going as one of the biggest things that aren't being provided for us. So we started our teen club, which Mimi and Monica ran, which was just brilliant. And then I've known Jo since our boys were tiny, but she wasn't part of mASCot. And then she came into the library and said, have you got a girls group? And we went, no, but if you want to run one, we've got the funding if you want to do it. So she then started a girls group, which then escalated to our Sunday group. But for primary age.
Splinter groups of these, with a similar ethos, right?
Yeah. But it's about parents because the whole point of it is about helping ourselves. So all of the groups we run are run by our mums and dads who, we get the funding, we provide it. So that's why they work, because they're real parents who've experienced how isolating it can be. Our children, and there's some amazing pan-disability clubs out there, but our children know that they're not in a wheelchair. They know they haven't got a learning disability. They're autistic. So they want to be with fellow autistic people, and there's nothing else out there apart from what mASCot provides for.
It's interesting that it sounds, It sounds like you started it for the parents, but then the kids were like,
Yeah,
hang
it
on.
did. It
And
did. It
so
was.
so watching that happen in real time,
Yeah.
having only ever previously seen your children struggle with social
Yeah.
interaction or be called weird or ostracized,
Mm.
like watching them sort of come together and connect on a different level, on a neurodivergent level.
Yeah, it's priceless. It's priceless to see,
Yeah,
and I
amazing.
don't think
Amazing.
many people get that those environments, and they can't be sort of manufactured by other people running things. You know, Joe gets it so right, Mimi gets it so right, because they're so free spirited that they allow our children to be, like you say, no rules, no,
Yeah.
not many boundaries. Obviously, safeguarding's in place very highly, but you know, it's got to be an environment that our children thrive in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you might as well just send them back to school in a place where they got to sit in the corner and be quiet. And it's
Yeah.
just that's why they struggle.
So you've mentioned Joe a few times.
Yes.
This is Joe Matthews. So Joe Matthews is the person that I did the first ever Neuroshambles episode with, and she's a Neuroshambles fan favorite. But Joe was kind of pivotal for a number of reasons for me. So Joe was the person that ran Sunday Club.
Yeah.
I would say organized Sunday Club, but it was it was unashamedly
Yeah.
disorganized. And that was the whole point, right? So it
Totally.
was like Joe was curating the whole thing, and the way that she'd created this unique space. And I'm aware that that's just when I came into it and Joe was leading
Yeah.
then. And I know that you did similar things and Mimi did similar things. And, you know, when I first walked into that space, it was Joe there in all, all of her
Oh,
glory.
yeah, totally.
And as you're saying, it's so wonderful that people volunteer for this. They do it off their own backs
Yeah.
because they see that gap in provision, something that people need that isn't out there. And either you just sit there hoping it's out there, or you somehow summon up enough spoons to make it happen
Yeah.
yourself.
But when you've got a lovely base like mASCot, it's like I say, the base of everything. Some people wouldn't even know where to start about starting a club up, but they've got the
Yes.
energy and the need and the want to do it. So this is the ideal opportunity where families can come and go, oh, actually, I can start now because I will have other people supporting me. I've got like a backbone to it because we've got like a Lego club. We've got all different clubs. We've got a cafe that we run for kids over 14s learn barista skills and have a
Mhm.
community within that when they're not at school or not at college, and it's where there's a need. If we've got the parent and the manpower to do it, we can do it. We can all do it.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful thing, and it's it's not just in Sussex that these things spring up. It happen wherever there are parents of neurodivergent kids who were also just sensing this need. I had an email from a Neuroshambles listener. I mean, I get quite a few emails from people, and they are all wonderful, but this was just like my favorite email ever. Because she'd listened to a conversation that I had with Joe Matthews, where Joe just went, just get off your ass and do it. I don't think she said it in such a blunt way, but I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But that was the sentiment. I think we all know the sentiment there. And I had an email from Hannah Woods, and I'm going to read it because you'll understand why. Listening to Neuroshambles helped me realize I wasn't alone in my experiences, and that maybe I'd even become a bit of an expert, at least in my own child's journey. So, armed with inspiration and a bit of courage, I launched Spectrum Squad Penarth, which is a neurodivergent youth group supporting young people in mainstream schools, years 5, 6, and 7, as they navigate the transition from primary to secondary school. The hope is that by building a peer network, they'll see familiar faces and feel more confident accessing support during this big life shift. And then she goes on to tell me more about that, and a shout out to her two collaborators, Anna and Harriet. But this was so uplifting to me that a conversation, a sweary conversation that me and Joe had, then got someone else going, I could probably do that. I mean, it doesn't sound like Joe's got her shit together. So
anyone can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's amazing.
So she started this whole thing off the back of just listening to this conversation. Now, I know that the majority of people with neurodivergent kids don't have the capacity. I'm not expecting other people to do it. There's no expectation. But I think if you're looking for something that doesn't exist, then talk to like-minded people and see if you can make it happen.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is exactly
totally.
what happened with mASCot, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's just all for parent power. So if Hannah wants
Yeah.
to contact me at any point, then if she needs any guidance, that would be brilliant. We
Oh,
could
yeah,
maybe have
absolutely.
a mASCot franchise in Wales. I'm brewing up somebody in Mallorca at the moment to start one up in
mASCot in
Mallorca.
Mallorca. Oh my
Mallorca,
God,
yes.
that's
So that'd be
amazing.
quite good. But I think it is just taking that step forward. And one of the biggest things I can say, and I know that all of the people who've worked and come forward, the amount of benefit we get as well. You know, we're building a community that helps us. It's not just us helping other people. We're getting just as much back. So when
Yeah.
you are frazzled, to go and spend that time and everything like that, it's a lot of work, but it's definitely not a chore.
Yeah, because then you start surrounding yourself with that community.
With our peer group, with our genuine peer
Yeah,
group.
that
Yeah.
these are all people that, if you are having wobbles
Yeah.
about stuff, you can contact people. With Neuroshambles, weirdly, has become my own community.
Yeah.
That I regularly kind of reach out to guests that I've spoken to, but like, oh, dude, have you got any advice about this? And it's really important to find your people, right? Like that was the thing about Sunday Club for us, is that we could sit and have a cup of tea and a biscuit with other parents, not feeling judged, not really having to hover over our children, which is massively underrated experience. And you can talk to other people about the things that we're all facing, their kids' struggles with friendships or difficulties at school or the diagnosis shit show or parenting techniques or just whinging about unhelpful family members. That's all so important so you don't feel so alone.
It is.
One of the other massively important ways of us being able to find our people and to build our community is online. I would think that's probably the most important one for a lot of parents of neurodivergent kids, because it's not easy to get the time or the capacity to meet up in person for loads of reasons.
Yep.
It's difficult to find babysitters who are neurodivergent friendly, or your kids just can't face leaving the house, or there might be other siblings that you have to manage in that, or you're just fucking knackered and you can't face it yourself. But obviously it's not as easy as just going, well, let's just pop over to this thing. It's, there's a lot of negotiation that is involved in making that happen. So to many, many people, the online community is invaluable. And that's where mASCot comes into its own, I think. The mASCot Facebook forum.
It does. It changes the climate slightly, because originally everybody who was on our online forum had all met in person.
Okay.
We'd all come from originally the coffee mornings, and then people we met at events and shows and, different settings. And then there was like a big burst of obviously just need, and a little bit like you said before about feeling a bit of an imposter when you went to the Grand Hotel. People feel like that in mASCot, or they don't know where they belong because they're in that limbo place. And we're really, all of the statutory services only provide after post-diagnosis support. Very few before. So we're really like, as soon as you've got an inkling that there might be something there with your child, you're welcome to join mASCot. And that's for one, because the earlier support you get and learn strategies and make those connections, the better you're going to be at being a parent and learning those skills and ways to approach your child. But also there is a little bit like you said, you're either going to join mASCot, read everything and go, this isn't what's
That doesn't sound like
happening
my
to me.
kid. Yeah.
Or you're going to be, oh my God, I'm 100% sure. So it's really
I can't believe that there are many people that have gone to the effort of thinking their child is neurodivergent and then going, oh no, I'm wrong. They usually have it confirmed, right? Because if you're even thinking along the lines of something is very different with my child, something's very different with your child.
Yeah, and of, like I say, of the thousands of families we've had come through, a lot haven't got the diagnosis at the end, but have persevered and then finally got it through appealing and appealing. So yes, it's not because the child wasn't autistic.
Yeah.
It's because, again, failure of the services, and especially girls with late diagnosis with
Yes, of
girls.
course.
And,
Mm-hmm.
there is. But no, so everybody joins mASCot for that community. And again, we've got lots of different categories. We've got some people who just sit behind the scenes and read everything, don't post. Some people who are prevalent posters, other people who, come to everything like real time onto our clubs and are on the forum. So
Yeah.
it takes all the spots for whatever anybody needs.
Well, that's why I think it's so important. I think sometimes, certainly when people are not sure, it's really valuable to just look over the fence, right? Just to look, if for want of a better expression, and see what people are talking about and what they describe, because that's when things resonate. That's when you read something that someone else is talking about. They describe their experiences, and you're like, that's totally me. That article you read in The Guardian that completely described your experience with Bill. It's only when you read that in someone else's words and go, that's the little light bulb moment.
Totally.
And there's no pressure when you join an online community you don't have to out yourself. You don't have to post anything. Just sort of sitting and watching, quietly collecting information is so important.
The amount of people who feed back what a lovely vibe mASCot's got. We don't get any trolling. We don't get anybody jumping on somebody for having a different opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Every so often you'll feel something brewing, but I go in there quite strong with that. We're not here to judge anybody's views.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's at a different journey. If you're new at your journey, you might say things in the wrong terminology, or you might be looking for that cure. mASCot's not about curing our children. It's about celebrating our wonderful, diverse families. But if somebody new comes in and use that term, you don't jump on them. You start educating them. You don't turn your backs on them. You change. You create that knowledgeable sort of environment, and that's something I feel the most proud of, is that I've created a really bonded community.
I think that's the benefit of having a Facebook group that is an online community for local. How do I say local people? That sounds like League of Gentlemen. A local forum for local people.
Well, it feels like we actually are in that sometimes.
Yeah.
Some of the conversations I've had are quite amazing. But it does. It means we're all talking about the same schools, the same services, the same local authority. So there's that connection.
That Facebook group has been incredibly important to Tam and I, because it's local and it talks about local stuff. So when you're asking for advice on diagnosis pathways and, how people navigated their own LAs, because each LA has a different experience. So if I'm going onto a Kent forum and asking them, their advice isn't going to pertain to what we're dealing with. Experiences at local schools, for example, if you're looking for transitioning to another school, you speak to other parents about what that's like. Recommendations for tutors or educational psychologists or OTs or clubs that kids might be able to join, and that has always been really, really valuable of what is available locally. And I am sure, I know that there are lots of other local groups available elsewhere. I know that Bristol have one, Bristol Parent Carers Forum. I am doing some talks for at a conference in March. Actually, after this has gone out, I have just done a talk for Bristol Parent Carers Forum, which is a phenomenal event, and they've got a really vibrant network. And I know that Sheffield have a network, and so if anyone is looking to connect with an online community and you haven't already done it, I'm sure that loads of neuroshamblers has already done it, and I'm just preaching to the choir here, but if you haven't, do a little Google, see what's available, and go and join your local community, because there's so much useful stuff there. One of the major things that helped me from the mASCot forum was when I was having real battles with Jay. So I was locking horns with Jay quite a lot in those days, because I was, I've talked about this on the episode I did with Terry Lloyd about the dad experience, but I was being authoritarian and, just like, naughty corner and that shit. And I'm not proud of it, but I was really struggling with what I perceived as defiance.
It's a rite of passage.
It is, I think, sadly, for all of us. But I basically just put a post on mASCot and went, I'm really struggling how do I deal with this defiant behavior? And someone got back to me on that post and recommended the Explosive Child book, which I've mentioned so many times on Neuroshambles, completely changed my perspective on parenting him, but also said maybe you might want to look into PDA as well. So that opened that whole can of worms. But these were really vital clues in helping me to understand Jay's neurotype that I would not have had if I wasn't part of that community, and if people didn't treat me with compassion and support, right? Because they could have gone, what are you doing shouting at him? That's the worst thing you could do.
Exactly,
like, you know, just like kick off. But they weren't, because again,
they've
people
probably
have
all
been
been there,
right?
and they've all done it. That's right.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for me was just when lockdown came.
Okay.
The extent of how that affects everybody, suddenly being in this, you know, uncharted territory we all went into. But we've got families who have got 4 autistic children who are single parents in a 1-bedroom flat with no garden, and their only window to anything was mASCot. Their only support, their only adult conversation when they got their children into bed was coming onto the forum late at night and just having some contact. So, you know, mASCot obviously wasn't set up for that because it'd been going for years. But what people didn't realise is the conversation I probably have the most with any parent is my child spends too much time on the computer. And when lockdown came, the amount of parents said, I get it now. That's their only window. Sometimes to making friends, to communicating, having that confidence to get involved with groups, so they can't do it in real time with real people because they can't do it. And suddenly when you take away the world outside you, which is quite a normal state for our autistic kids who find that such a daunting place to be, they actually all realise why that's so important. So apart from it all being a communication of us all meeting online, it was a learning curve where that conversation happened a lot over lockdown. Like, blimey, how my views changed a little bit. I know my boy, you know, and it was, so there was a lot of learning going on that we could all learn together because we had that instant communication with each other. We didn't have to wait till Tuesday when we all met at coffee morning and talk about it. We could just all, you know, type away and communicate then. So that was a real, actually quite an amazing time in lockdown, being that close to everybody.
Yeah, it just sheds a completely different light on things and helps you see things from our kids' perspective. That's wonderful. Now, one of the trickiest things about finding your people that isn't often spoken about is that you very often need to let go of people who aren't your people, who aren't supportive of you, which can be a really difficult thing to do, especially if they've been with you for a long time. You know, if they've been friends for quite a while, they might be close friends, very often family members, actually, who, when you tell them that you suspect your child might be neurodivergent, they, you know, all the typical bullshit. They try and convince you you're making it up, or that you're not parenting in the right way, or the worst ones are the ones that question the entire concept of neurodivergency itself. You know, those ones who are like, oh, I think it's a fad. Oh, it's not a real thing. It wasn't around when I was growing up. All of that bullshit. And I think when that first happens, you still feel obligated to be around these people, you know, especially family members. And a huge part of finding our people is about losing people who are not our people. Have you had much of that experience?
There's that famous saying that friends come into your life for a reason. Some come because they need you, and once they've had their need filled, they'll go. Some come in because you need them. Some will stay for life. I found that in my whole life journey anyway. Friends come and go and are transient. I've got friends that I've had from school that have stayed my friends, and they've stood by my side with everything with Bill. And I think maybe it's because the way my brain is, a little bit out of sight, out of mind. If somebody didn't really mean that much and weren't filling a need for me, I don't think I'd have even noticed them going. Or if they were judging me and went, I probably would be like, well, they weren't worth anything to me. But my friends who stayed with me forever are the world, and I'd do anything for. And they get Bill, they understand Bill. So I don't think I've ever really noticed that slipping away.
Okay.
But again, I think that's a little bit because I've realised in that
Because of
that's
who
how
you
my
are and
and the way
your
my
approach
brain.
to life, which is
Yeah,
great and wonderful, and not everyone has the awareness or the
yeah,
confidence to do that. Like, I'm one of them. I hate confrontation and I hate upsetting people. So for quite a long time, we held on to some friends that
yeah,
were not the best people for us to be around. And the tricky thing really is that there were some people that they didn't even say anything negative necessarily. They're just not listening. Right.
yeah.
Where you would explain what's going on, with your child, and you would try and help to educate them a little bit so that they could bridge the gap in understanding that you have
Mm,
and that they have. But it can be so infuriating where they just ignore that and go, oh, well, great, do you want to come to the pub for Sunday lunch with us all? It's like, no, you don't. No, that's the last thing I want to do. I
yeah,
can't do that with Jay. He's not going to want to do it. Like, I'd love to, but you're not listening, because he's going to get completely overwhelmed, and I'm going to spend the whole of my time trying to manage his dysregulation whilst watching everyone else have a lovely time in a pub. This is the worst thing for me.
yeah.
And so, it would get to the point where you just say, no, I can't do that because of this. Then the next week they'll invite you again. It's like, like I, I, I know you probably mean well. Like, you think you're doing a nice thing, but this is really hard for me. I don't want to have to keep going through this.
And then
Like,
you look like the baddie for keep turning somebody down.
yeah.
And then there's that little bit like, for me, it would be like, I'd be like, what are they saying to other people that I can't be bothered? But it isn't. It's actually, like you say,
Yeah.
they're not actually listening to your need. That's something you actually can't do. You physically
And then
can't do
they're
it.
just not picking it up. They're not learning they're not learning what you're learning. And so that you sort of, at some point, well, you need to sort of whittle these people
Yeah.
away out of your lives. And as a parent of neurodivergent kids, let's face it, we do not have the capacity for massive friendship groups anyway. So, if you can only really focus on a core handful of people, let those people be fucking excellent. Let them earn it. Be
Oh,
worth it.
totally. They've got to
You
go,
know,
yeah, very high bar they've got to get
yeah,
to.
it's definitely a case of quality over quantity when you're a parent of a neurodivergent kid. It doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't have to make a song and dance. You just gradually reduce contact. You don't, invite them for play dates, or if they invite you to something that you can't manage, then just say no. Don't have to give loads of reasons. No, thanks. Don't over explain, because that then gets into, you just don't need to.
No.
They already know your situation and they've ignored everything you've told them previously. So save your energy,
And
basically.
you change as an adult. One, obviously you become a parent, so you're going to change a little bit because of that. But your whole life is suddenly tilted.
Yeah.
And it is like you have to reassess of where your energies are going to be. And 9 times out of 10, your energies will be directed at your children because they're the most vulnerable in this situation. They need all the support and understanding. And if people aren't going to be by your side and give that, I grew a very, very thick skin very, very quickly of not giving two fucking shoots what anyone thought about me. And I came across really prickly to people, and it wasn't that, it was just self-survival.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if I spent my time worrying about losing a friend, or every time somebody said something really thoughtless to me, I'd have, might not have been even be here. That's how the impact it makes on people.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like to close my world down, keep the most important people there, and keep Bill safe. That was my
Yeah,
priority as
absolutely.
a parent.
It took me a lot longer to get there. And I get there in my own way.
Yeah.
But I think we should never be afraid of letting go of people who have shown that they are not wholeheartedly 100% on our team. And that's not just for you, it's for your kids as well.
Yeah.
Because our kids deserve to be surrounded by people who are compassionate and understanding and supportive.
And
Because there's enough of the other lot out there. They're going to be encountering all of those. So they need to find their people as well. And we need to show them what that looks like.
Totally. Well said.
One caveat worth mentioning when whittling people out of your life who are not supportive is that sometimes it's much more difficult, particularly when it comes to family members, because there's so much more history and there's so much more politics around doing that. And I know a lot of people have had difficulty maintaining distance because you've got, to gradually reducing contact with someone who is in your close family is there's a lot there, because there's an expectation and there's an obligation that is that you carry with you. My ex-mother-in-law is a great example of this.
The mother-in-law jokes are coming out.
Oh, she is a fucking joke, let me tell you. But she has been relentless, and I've talked about her on Neuroshambles before, and she's my ex-mother-in-law now, so it doesn't really matter. But she has been relentlessly unsupportive of our kids' neurodivergency since we first told her about it. And initially that was really hard, and we were trying to educate her and we're trying to explain and and trying to change the behavior, but that behavior didn't change. So over time we've just sort of reduced contact. Again, like not in a dramatic way, but we just reduced the number of visits. And we used to sort of go and stay, when Tam and I were together, we used to go stay for the weekend. And that was just awful. It was fucking awful for everyone. She'd be awful with some of the kids, and it was like no one needed it. And her as well. Do you know what I mean? Like she didn't need it either, because she was seeing behavior that she was defining as naughty or, weird or gross or whatever it was, and was not sympathetic. So then it was like, well, we're going to not visit for a weekend, or we'll just pop in and out, We'll spend more time driving there and back than we will actually in her presence, but we'll tick off a box. I think of it as being a bit like a traveling petting zoo. That you'd turn up with the kids, you'd let the animals out to run wild, let the mother-in-law at the time pet them briefly, then bundle them back into the car and fuck off. Before anyone gets bitten. But my parents initially, I think, saw Jay's behaviour as naughty. My mum in particular would get really stressed because he would go through their house opening all the drawers, which in my mum's mind is just naughty. Who the fuck do you think you are going in all my drawers? He's just curious, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And he doesn't know the rules, and he doesn't understand why. Why would you put drawers at this level if I can't look in them? And I explained it. I explained it to my mum once, and as soon when we talked to them about Jay's autism, they just went off and did a bunch of research, and they listened. They listened to what I had to say and learned, and they are just wonderful with the kids now, and they're just and so they're on our team. They get to stick around, right? They get to be one of the privileged few that can immerse themselves in the chaos of our lives, and they are blessed to be so. So ultimately, quality over quantity is the thing, and it's very. I've heard a lot of stories of neuroshamblers having to go non-contact with people who have just not shown up for them.
And be kind to yourself.
It's a really hard thing to do, but your only obligation is to your kids, really. And if they're going to have a negative effect on your child and your kids and their self-esteem and their authenticity, then bin 'em, mate.
Totally.
It's not all rubbish.
So normally with Neuroshambles, we talk about stuff that parents of neurodivergent kids find challenging, and then we end with some positives to round things off on a more upbeat note. But this whole episode's been positive, really, hasn't it? We're just sort of, talking about how wonderful it is being with like-minded people who are going through similar experiences. And I very much hope that Neuroshambles goes a tiny way to doing that for people listening, to reassure neuroshamblers that they're not alone in the challenges they face. We're all going through all kinds of shit. Welcome aboard, right? But a podcast is only really a one-way medium. Unless, of course, you fancy appearing as a guest or writing a suggested topic of the week, in which case, email me at hello@neuroshambles.com. However, if you are looking for a more interactive level of connection, there is almost certainly a local group near you, whether it's a Facebook forum or a WhatsApp group or an in-person meetup. And there are some really niche ones out there as well. One of my recent guests, Dr. Lucy Pocock, found a WhatsApp group specifically for mums in the medical profession that have PDA kids. Wow. Like, that is a niche. Like, how she found those people, whether she stood on the street with a sign going, join my WhatsApp group, I don't know. But there are people out there. You will find your people, and you will drill down and find the people within those people if you know where to look. So those people are out there just waiting for you to lurk in their presence and be invited in. So go find them. The other thing I want to look at in the positives is that there are some amazing volunteers out there. People doing it off their own back. They're organizing groups and they're running forums, and they're not doing it for money or praise, but because they know how important it was to them when they were going through that uncertainty, I think, and they want to give something back. And it always astounds me that people like yourself, Sam, and Joe, who were largely kind of through the knottier end of things, you know, they've gone through the really difficult struggles. They now understand more about their children's neurotypes, and their children also understand more about their neurotypes. They don't have to be doing this. You don't have to do this, Sam. Is what I'm saying. And I'm just amazed that you are just still wanting to give so much back to the community when, you know, you should be putting your feet up in your van and going off around the Algarve or something.
I should. I've just had my 60th birthday. I should be putting my feet up.
I mean, please don't. That's not me trying to nudge you into retirement, Sam.
You're
I'm
trying
just
to
saying.
take over, aren't you?
No, God, no. I do not have a capacity.
Neurodiversity champions.
Okay, we're going to do some neurodiversity champions now. I feel like it would be incredibly remiss of me to not have mASCot as a neurodiversity champion for this episode. I mean, obviously, this whole episode has been eulogizing mASCot and saying how important it is. But just tell me a little bit more about mASCot, what you're currently doing, and what are your plans? What are your dreams for the future here, Sam? Because you're not resting up, are you? Let's face it.
No, still at it, still going strong. So at the moment, over the years, we've run a lot of projects where we've done equine therapy, swimming clubs, all the things that come up on the forum that we need. And that's all been that we've had funding in the past. Things changed with lockdown and funding's harder to get. So at the moment, we're just running our staunch groups, which is our Team Plus, our Lego Club, our Cafe, our Tuesday Club. We've got Dungeons and Dragons and a few little peripheral ones that we're doing, plus my workshops for family support, parent support, and my one-to-ones. But if we had the funding coming in again, you know, we'd have. At the moment, our teens club isn't running because we haven't got the funding for it, but that's one of our main ones that have been like running for years. So the workshops that we do direct for parents, for strategies, we'll be able to build on more of those. And all of the clubs would have to be able to have more or bigger venues so we could accommodate more youth projects within it. So there's loads of things, but with mASCot, we work quite holistically within what the forum and the membership need, and we're always being asked if there's different things we can run. And at the moment, we're having to say we haven't got the funding or the capacity at the moment to run those. So funding coming in is paramount for us to be able to sustain the things that we're actually doing.
So you've got volunteers to do it, but obviously it's the funding of the venue or the equipment or whatever it is that just means that it's not available at the moment.
It is, and it's really important and for the funding to come in, because when we start a project that becomes, and anyone with an autistic child knows, there needs to be that regularity. That's
so
my club
important
on
for
a
consistency,
Tuesday. I
isn't
need
it?
to go.
Yeah.
If we go, no, sorry, we can't run it for now, or obviously there's always going to be unforeseen things, but to have that sustainability for the things that we know are the core things that keep mASCot running, really, really important for us to have money coming in.
Now, as part of Podcastathon, the idea is to shine a light onto various different community groups and charitable enterprises, of which mASCot obviously is one. Now, I am aware that the vast majority of listeners of Neuroshambles are not based in Sussex, so you might not benefit directly from mASCot services. But if you've been inspired by Sam's story in any way, and I defy you to not be, but if you feel able to donate any money, no matter how small, in recognition of the excellent work they do, it would be enormously appreciated. You can donate on givey.com/mASCot. So that's givey.com/mASCot. I'll put a link in the show notes in case you haven't had a chance to write it down. But anything that you can donate would be greatly appreciated. If you possibly can.
Wonderful, thank you.
So obviously mASCot is a Neurodiversity champion. Have you got any Neurodiversity champions for us, Sam?
I have. Apart from my lovely team that's worked with me, they'll always be my champions. I just think that it has to be my lovely Bill, who has taken on the baton and created his own group to support autistic adults in Brighton and Hove.
Okay, so he's actually now starting his own thing going.
Yeah.
Like a chip off the old block. Amazing. Tell me a bit more about that.
Our teen group goes up to 18. We were having children go to that who are a little bit older, but there was also, the practicalities of having 15, 16-year-olds and 20-year-olds together. They don't, they want different things. And
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the reality is between me and Mimi with that, we haven't got the capacity to go into adult support. So I spoke with my Bill about setting up an adult social network within Brighton and Hove.
Okay.
So Bill and his fiancée Lee have started up the BNC, which is the Brighton Neurodivergent community, which is
amazing.
for adults between 18 and 40. It
Okay.
did start off 18 to 30, but then Bill realised he was getting to late 20s. And he's 29 soon. So he went, let's up it to 40.
Also, you don't want to be advertising 18 to 30 for autistic.
No, I know. I did that to his
It's a very different vibe.
It's done absolutely amazing. So their groups, which they do pub meets, sober nights, bowling, cinema.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Craft nights. They do puzzle. They just
and Bill you paid it forward. Now Bill is now taking it on and being his own Neurodiversity champion.
Definitely a chip off the old
wicked.
block. He's definitely. Amazing. So I'm really, really proud of that. About 3 years they've been running now, and they've got a nice big membership. They're getting really popular. So therefore, autistic adults without learning disability who are able to go out, don't need carers or anyone befriend us with them. They just maybe didn't have the friendship group or the confidence to go out. So they can meet online, grow their confidence up, get that network around them. So that's a real big milestone for mASCot. So parents can come to us when their kids, however young they are, be supported all through their parenting until their children are adults. And then there's a community for those young adults to move on to, which is all inclusive, non-judgmental. And it's just, for me, that's been a bit of my dream is to have this just constant community that everybody's welcome to. And I think we're fulfilling that at the moment.
You definitely are. That's wonderful.
Tiny epic wins!
Tiny epic wins now. These are the things that in neurotypical families would be considered no big deal. But for a neurodivergent family, they are epic wins. And I always like to shine a light on these. So do you have any tiny epic wins for us, Sam?
Well, I wouldn't say it was so much tiny. I just think a little bit, we've covered a lot through it. It's about, there's a normal course of life everyone just presumes their children will do.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, Bill didn't speak till he was 6. He struggled with lots of things. I never thought he'd leave home. Me and Paul thought he'd be with us, and which was fine. And within the last few years, he's left home. He's bought his first home. He works with adults with learning disabilities, which makes me so proud that as part of his job, he's given something back. and he's getting married in May.
Amazing.
They're not little things, but they're probably things people just take for granted that their children will automatically do. But when you don't think your child would ever get to that point, to see all of that all come together in one bit. So they are wins.
That's a massive, massive win. Yeah. I had a tiny epic win just on Sunday, where, I mean, I've been just feeling really frazzled lately, and I just was feeling really not great on Sunday, which very rarely happens. I'm very rarely ill, but I just woke up in the morning and I just felt rubbish. And I had grand plans. We were all going to go swimming. I was like, I don't even think I should drive. I was feeling that off. And I said this to Jay, and he went, "Let me make you a hot drink to pick you up." Right? Which is very unusual for Jay. And I was like, all right, yeah, that'd be amazing. And he went, "Leave it with me," which is always a troubling thing, right? Leave it with me, because he doesn't make hot drinks. He doesn't drink hot drinks. He doesn't really know how they work. But, I was like, he wants to do this. Great, I'll let him do it. And he disappeared downstairs. And he came back up with this thing. And it was an interesting concoction.
Oh.
I was like, what's in it? And it wasn't awful. It was just surprising because it had garam masala in it.
Oh. Okay.
A very weird mix of kind of chai.
Oh.
Like, I've got some instant chai, and he put some honey in it and loads of garam masala. It was a cuminy bitch of a drink. Yeah. It was very cumin heavy, but it did perk me up, mainly because it came from him. It's one of those. It's like, you know what, for you to actually
and
give a shit
about you, and
think about me,
you, wonderful,
was really nice. So I'm gonna have that as a win.
What the flip?
Right, what the flip moments now. These are moments that our neurodivergent children will come out with something. They'll say something or do something that completely mystifies us. Makes us just go, what the flip? I had a really good one sent in from a listener. And I always like to hear from listeners. Jane messaged me to say, I had a what the flip moment recently that made me think of Neuroshambles. I was under the weather, so very similar to my experience, right? I was under the weather, and my neurodivergent 13-year-old daughter wasn't being particularly compassionate. We've all been there. When I pointed out she doesn't have the right temperament to be a nurse, her response was, I could be a nurse. I'd just be terrible at being around ill people. It's like, that's kind of a core prerequisite of the job there.
Yes. Wrong career choice.
Maybe she could. Just don't be ill. Then we'll be good. Have you got any what the flip moments, Sam?
Yeah, Bill wasn't a big lover of, he didn't read books, wasn't into reading, but he was obsessed with Coronation Street. So we'd buy him the TV magazine so he could read what was going on in the soaps. Mm-hmm. And I passed him the paper with the TV magazine inside it, and on the front it had the headlines of Simon Cowell pays $250,000 on cryogenics and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And Bill just said to me, Mum, did you read this about Simon Cowell's going to get frozen? And I went, yeah, I did. And he went, who's going to do the X Factor on Saturday? And I went, well, no, it's for after he dies. And then I had to explain to him, and he just thought he was going to get frozen just like now, which a lot of people would probably think that would be a good idea. But yes, Bill had a wonderful take on things. So we've giggled about many over the years.
Love it. I've had a few what the flip moments myself recently. India, from nowhere, just turned to me in the car and went, you sound like an overgrown beaver eating monkeys.
Okay.
Thanks for the feedback. I'll do better. I don't know what I could do with that. I'll try not to sound like that. I don't know. The other one was from India when I asked her to clean her teeth, and she responded in the most fabulously PDA way imaginable. Because I tried the demand avoidant approach. I was like, do you want to put your pajamas on or clean your teeth first? Right, give them a choice. It's their choice. She went, that would be a very mistakable choice because you are not the boss of me.
Oh, laying it down there now.
Okay, I'm sorry for daring to have any level of authority in this household.
Oh,
How dare I?
They're delightful. I adore it. I could just have conversations with wonderful autistic people all day long. Like I say, it's wonderful. Nice outlook on life.
Oh yeah, certainly. Once you're attuned to it,
Yes.
Once you know what you're listening out for.
Yeah, when you're in the inside bit, right in the inners of it all. Perfect.
Okay, that is it for this episode of Neuroshambles, the podcast-thon special. Firstly, Sam, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest, and for everything that you've done with mASCot and the role that that's played in my life.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'll also say a massive thank you to all of you Neuroshamblers out there who are continuing to download it and recommend it to people and leave lovely comments on the socials. If you want to give me a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice, please do. It's massively appreciated, and it does help to convince other people that what they're listening to isn't complete tosh. Not always. There are light elements of tosh, but it's not complete tosh, and that helps to get a review to recommend it to other people. You can also follow Neuroshambles on the socials, on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, so feel free to join me there. I think that's it for this episode. All that remains for me to say is have a nice life.